I want to share I'm going to be doing some spicy black bean burgers with a really cool cilantro based sauce. It's actually a weeknight, so there's a lot happening. Hubby's upstairs doing carpet cleaning, daughter's doing homework, so hopefully we can get through this. But let's rock into it. Okay, so this looks like a lot. It kind of is a lot. These are our ingredients. The main thing is going to be our black beans. These are actually canned black beans that I've rinsed and drained. And then I'm going to season them up with some aromatics with some onion, garlic. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. We're going to use all this as my seasonings. I'll walk you through it. Mushrooms are key to give you that umami. And then we're going to use some oats, broth, and Panko breadcrumbs to make the patties. So let me just start. All right, I have my pan already preheating. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my aromatics started. Hopefully this camera is not moving too much. So just chop in my onion. I keep a little bowl here to the side so I can throw my stuff in the trash. That way I'm not running back and forth to the trash while I'm doing this. I only need half of an onion for the black bean base itself. So I'm really doing it in two parts. I'm going to cook the black beans, and this is not necessary. This is just me adding as much flavor as possible since I'm not using meat. But what I'm going to do is cook down the black beans in a mixture of onion and garlic and cumin and smoked paprika, a little bit of coconut milk and cinnamon, and let that come to a simmer, then let it cool. And then I combine it with mushrooms and more aromatics that are blended in the food processor. Sorry, I need to bring it lower so y'all can see what I'm doing. And then I'll make a patty with the panko and the oats. So all I'm doing right now is just chopping up my yellow onion. This is a base for the cooked down black beans. I need to sharpen my knife. That's why I was struggling a little bit. And if you're not a fan of cutting, you can buy prepped onions already, or you can just use a food processor and do this like there. But I actually like cutting. It's very therapeutic for me. So, all right, onions are done. So now I'm gonna get my garlic. How I do it, I roll it like that. And then I pick out how many I need. I probably need about, I would say 4 cloves. And then I just take the flat side of my knife, take my heel, and just tap it. And that allows me to take the skin off. I think I learned that from Kenji Lopez. He's a YouTuber. He's a chef, really, but he has a YouTube channel. So just getting all this while the pan is getting nice and hot. For a lot of plant-based cooking, this is really necessary, in my opinion, in order to really maximize flavor. Because, when you're cooking with meat, you kind of naturally get umami, which is like that savory kind of taste, meaty taste. You get that naturally just from cooking it. We miss that when we're cooking with vegetables and fruits and beans. So to replace that, what I found is usually having some type of base of aromatics is helpful. So I'm just going to finely dice my garlic. You can use minced garlic. I used minced garlic for a long time when I first started cooking. I didn't start using fresh garlic so maybe 3 or 4 years ago. There, some will say there's no difference. I don't know. To me, it's a difference. But if you're somewhere it's like, I don't like that part, don't feel like you got to get fresh. Just use what you have. Use minced, or even use garlic powder. But what I found, especially since I cook for people, the closer I can use it to the fresh part of it, the more powerful the flavor is to me and to the people I cook for. So I just stick with that. Pan is nice and hot. This is avocado oil. I use avocado oil because it has a high smoke point. So that means it takes higher temps for it to burn. You could use olive oil, but you can't cook it as high of a temperature. Then we just put our onions right in. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. This will help draw out more of that moisture and start to build flavor. This is probably maybe it's not the longest step, but to me, this is the longest step. Now, this onion is going to be the onion for the food processor. This is what I'm going to combine with my mushrooms later on. So we don't have to chop this as finely. This I'll just quarter. And I don't even think I need all of it. I'll probably use just a quarter of it. So that's that. Okay, so now I'm going to get my garlic. Add that to the pot. You know, garlic can burn quick. So I'm just stirring it until it gets real fragrant. And my secret ingredient for this is actually this gochujang paste. If you don't have this, you can use tomato paste, but I like this. This is actually a Korean fermented red pepper paste. I got it from Trader Joe's. I love this stuff. Let's stir all that in there. We're going to add in a little bit more oil because we're going to add some of my spices now. I like to bloom my spices before I add the beans in. So all this is by feel for me. This is some smoked paprika, a little bit of garlic powder. Yep, on top of the fresh garlic. I love garlic. A little bit of curry powder. So not too much. Probably about half a tablespoon. The flavors of the spices wakens them up in the oil before we add our black beans, and this is going to add more flavor. I add this a lot when I do my curries, so I like it in these black beans because they're almost like a curried black bean. You can't forget your cumin. It's going to give it a nice taste too. And I just started using this. This is like everything mushroom seasoning. It's got dehydrated mushrooms in here. If you find this, be careful. It does have some already added salt, so it'll add more salt than you're controlling. So just something to be mindful of when you're cooking with all-purpose seasonings. We add our black beans. And these, like I said, these are canned black beans that I've rinsed. I try to get low sodium if I can't, but if I can't, I rinse them pretty good and drain them before I cook with them, just so I can be in control in how much salt I'm adding. Some of this fennel seasoning that I made. Fennel is usually an ingredient you see that gives like sausage that flavor that most people like. So I'm trying something new, and I had my own fennel seeds that I ground up with smoked paprika, and there's salt in here too. So I'll make sure I taste it because I don't want this to be too salty. There's also a little bit of sugar, coconut sugar, just to balance with some of the spicy and the savory. I'm going to add half of a jalapeno. And because this is for me, I'm not going to be seated. I'm just going to put it in plain. I'm also going to use this remaining half of the onion. Yes, you can get your snack, baby. I'm going to add that onion in there. I have some broth that I made. This is with better than bouillon. So this is basically just water mixed with the better than bouillon seasoning. So I'm just going to add this in there. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more salt too and flavor. Like that. So we got our jalapeno, our onion, and then also going to add cinnamon stick. So I just started doing this. I love adding this to my black beans now. It adds like a kind of, think about like how when you have baked beans almost, kind of adds that flavor. It's not like you taste the cinnamon overwhelmingly, especially since I'm going to remove it at the end. I'm going to remove the jalapeno and the onion at the end, but I just they add a lot of good flavor. And then I add a little bit of coconut milk, just a little bit. Remember, we wanted this to be the base. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. And that coconut milk is going to add a nice little creamy component to it. So this is going to be what gives our black beans a ton of flavor. Okay, so we got these mushrooms. If you add salt to these mushrooms, it's going to draw out the water and they're going to get real mushy. That's why a lot of people don't like mushrooms, because they're really mushy. So instead, what I'm going to do is just add oil to this, put it in the oven, and let it dehydrate and take that water out, like evaporate it. And it's going to make them more crunchy, more crispy. And then I'm going to show you my but my new marinade that I use for mushrooms now. That gives it like a nice smoky, meaty-like flavor. So let's get the oil in this. This again is avocado oil, about a tablespoon. And I'm just lightly tossing it just so the mushrooms are covered. And make sure you have parchment paper on your sheet pan. That means easy cleanup later. So you don't have to clean the sheet pan. You just take the parchment paper off, throw it in the trash. Spread this out like this. And you just want it all to be in a single layer. Because if some of them are covered or on top or on top of each other, instead of it roasting, it's going to steam, and that's going to make it softer. Remember, we want it to be closer to crispy. Now, it won't be as crispy as cooking it on the stovetop, but this will help us save time, which is the key when you're cooking on a weeknight. That's all spread out. My oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this in. And I'm going to set my timer to probably 20 minutes. Now with this meal, since I have a little bit of time, the mushrooms are in the oven, the black beans are simmering. I'm going to do some sweet potatoes. I'm going to do some roasted sweet potatoes on the side. Like, so even if I wasn't doing this root vegetable like the sweet potato, I would do broccoli or actually we already did cabbage like that yesterday. I chop it up. I add a little bit of oil, my favorite seasonings, put it on parchment paper on a sheet pan, put it in the oven for 450 degrees for about 25 minutes, maybe 30 to give or take. And then my veggies are done. Now, before I chop my sweet potatoes, I need to sharpen my knife. This is actually a knife my husband got me since I started doing my chef work, and has one of my favorite proverbs in there about oh man, what is this proverb about? I cannot believe I forgot it. Lean not unto your own understanding. That's what this proverb is. So this is a honing rod. It doesn't sharpen your knife. It just realigns the metal so that it's sharp. You know, it doesn't sharpen it, and that the worst thing you could have as a chef when you're cutting is a dull knife. That is super dangerous, especially when you're cutting root vegetables. Probably one of my worst accidents I had. I was listening to music in my ears with like, you know, some Bluetooth earphones, and I wasn't all the way paying attention, and my finger slipped, and I went down with the knife, and it got my finger. Thankfully, the knife wasn't sharp, but it skipped because the knife wasn't sharp. But you can see here is how sharp it is. It's putting dents just by me tapping it. So because it's sharp, it makes it easier to cut the root vegetable. I'd say the key to cutting anything, and in particular root vegetables, is making sure you have a flat base like this. And that means it's stable and it won't rock on you. If you try to cut like this, that's super not safe. Because if you go to hold it, it's going to roll on you. And do the same thing. I cut one end and I cut the other end. I cut in half. Hold on, baby. Hold on, sweetie. And I cut right down. Right down. And then it's just a matter of stacking them up into planks and cutting. So what I mean by that is, here's a plank. I cut one row, another row, then I turn, cut another row. Now we got cubes. And you just keep doing that. We're just going to toss them into this bowl here. Lots of mixing bowls. Makes it easier to cook and throw away things without having to go to the trash can. A little bit of avocado oil, about a tablespoon. And we're going to go ahead and hit it with a generous pinch of salt, a little bit of garlic powder, not much. And then my favorite seasoning, a little bit of smoked paprika. I just use my hands and I'll just toss. And then you know where this is going. It's going to go in a sheet pan that has wet parchment paper. Again, spread everything out in a single layer. We're going to roast this in that same oven. Put it at the bottom. So here are our mushrooms so far. They're a lot smaller. Remember, they were closer together, so they're dehydrating. They're starting to crisp up a little bit more. So I'm actually going to turn the temperature up to around 420, 430 and let it crisp some more. Okay, our black beans, all that liquid. So the liquid was at this level, and it's pretty much come down and reduced to this, which is what we want. So I'm going to remove our aromatics. So I'm going to take out that jalapeno. Take out, look, the cinnamon stick has expanded because of all that water. Take out that onion because we don't need big blocks of onion in our black beans and our other piece of onion. Smash just a little bit, not a lot. This is going to help bring the consistency. You still want to see some black beans, but not all of them. Okay, our mushrooms are done. So you can see, look how much they've dehydrated in the oven. And like I said, they won't be as crispy as they would be if you did a stovetop, but we saved a ton of time trying to cook it on stovetop. Now you add a little pinch of salt, a little pinch. Toss those up. It's nice and dehydrated. It's not gooey, it's not mushy. It'll be a nice crispiness that adds to our black beans. Okay, so this right here is a simple maple liquid smoke glaze that I made yesterday, actually. It's a combination of maybe like half a teaspoon of liquid smoke, about a tablespoon or two of maple syrup, a little bit of oil, And then season with garlic powder, paprika, and a pinch of salt. It's going to add like a nice smokiness from the liquid smoke, a little sweetness from the maple glaze, or from the maple syrup, I should say. All I'm going to do is just pour like maybe 2 teaspoons, 2.5 teaspoons over the mushrooms, toss them, and then we're going to put them back in the oven. And it's going to add so much flavor. You don't have to do this part, but I like doing this part. It adds amazing flavor. All right, this goes back in. Put it on broil so we can cook it. So we gotta make sure we watch this. Probably about a minute or two. Get that. And then we'll move our sweet potatoes up to the top. And we'll put it back on regular bake. And so now they're nice and crispy and got a nice glaze on them. So half of them we'll save, maybe like a quarter of them we'll save for the topping. The rest of them we're going to put them directly into the mixture for the black bean patty. So we're going to put the mushrooms directly into the processor. Like this. It's going to give like a meaty, sweet taste to the black bean burger. So we added that. We're going to add the rest of our onion, that quarter of an onion we cut from earlier. We're going to add like a handful or two of fresh cilantro. We're going to do some thyme. And so, just the leaves, not the branches. Just put that in there. And this is to kind of give it more of that jerk-inspired kind of flavor. Usually I do it with scallions, but I didn't have scallions. So I'm showing you in real life what I would do. Instead of going to the grocery store and trying to make it perfect, I'm doing what I can with what I have. But if you have scallions, that would be amazing. I'm just sliding the thyme leaves off the branch, or off the stem, I should say. It's not a branch. Usually I just go the opposite direction of where it grows. That makes it easier. So normally I do this with wet jerk seasoning, but I don't have any. But I got this dry jerk seasoning rub. My friend actually went to Jamaica a few months back, and they came back and got this for me because they know I love to cook. And so it's got a mix of it's basically dry jerk seasoning. So it's got your pimento peppers, garlic, bell pepper flakes, chives, cinnamon, nutmeg, spices, anti-caking agent, onion, and salt. So we're going to be careful with this because we have salt in our black beans. You don't want to add too much salt. That. I'll add a little bit of oil. That. And then we'll process this. Okay, let's pulse. Just get it all in there. That. I don't want to miss out any of this because we worked so hard to get it. If you want more, I'd say use 2 8-ounce packages of mushrooms because they cook down so much after all that water is kind of cooked out of it. Put on the gloves because the black beans are still a little bit warm. I don't burn myself. Just mix the herbs and the onions with the black beans. Combine. Remember, since this is not meat, you can always taste it and make sure the flavor is where you want it to be. A bit of our oat flour. A little bit of Panko breadcrumbs. I'm doing this all by eye. So I add a little bit at a time. I can always add more if I need to. And basically what we're looking for is to kind of get something that looks almost like a dough, honestly. So that way you can really maneuver it into a patty. You could do this with, I've seen people do it with chickpea flour. If you're trying to do more of a gluten-free option, you probably do it with regular flour too. I just like the taste that the oat flour adds to it. This is the thing about cooking and recipes in general. I like to do it by eye because sometimes, some days you need more than what you normally thought. So this is kind of what I'm looking for. You see how it's kind of staying together when I put it like that? Look at that, see? Staying together. That's what we want. It's binding. So now I'm gonna add a little bit more of the panko breadcrumbs because that's gonna add the crispy exterior for when we pan fry it. Panko. That should be good. Thinking you do all this for a weeknight? So here, I think the key thing to do, well, at least it's been helpful for me with making black bean burgers that have a nice circular kind of dimension is actually using this cookie cutter ring, or it's like a donut cutter. I'm not sure, but as you can see, it really makes the patty nice and circular. And because it's already on the parchment paper, I don't have to worry about it sticking. Now, I did forget to cut it before this into squares, so I had to kind of maneuver my way in and cut it like that at the end. So if you do this recipe, just go ahead and cut your parchment paper before. Then you're gonna go ahead and cover it with saran wrap because we are gonna put this in the fridge for at least 30 minutes so it can get nice and firm. All right, so while the black beans are in the refrigerator, I'm gonna work on this sauce. So it's actually a play on this sauce I already did, and it was basically a mix of some mayo, cilantro with the stems, a little bit of garlic powder, salt, and lemon juice. But as you can see, it's a little bit watery, so I want to make it thicker. So I decided to add this avocado. I would use like coconut yogurt, or if you do dairy, you can use something different. I don't know well, we can use some parts of this avocado, not all of it though. It's been in the refrigerator. Oh man, I don't know. Well, we'll skip this part. This part looks crazy. And I'm only going to use the parts that are not brown. Skip past those other parts. Put it straight into my blender, my little mini blender, just so I can add a little bit more creaminess to the cilantro sauce I already made. But I am going to add a different ingredient to make it a little spicy. Hopefully that's enough because the rest of it looks kind of bad. Yeah, this avocado had been in the fridge for a minute, so didn't make it, unfortunately. That's okay. So this is what I'm going to add as well. These is actually green chilies, canned green chilies. I'm not going to add the whole thing. Probably about like a tablespoon or two because I want it to be really spicy. Okay. And then I'm going to add all of our cilantro sauce we already made. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more lime since we added more fat with the avocado. The lime acid will cut through the fat. And then just to keep it nice and fresh, I'm going to add a little bit more cilantro. And it doesn't have to just be the leaves. It could be the stems too because you remember we're blending it. All right, let's put that right in there. And this, I don't know if you can hear my daughter playing her videos as she finished her homework. Posts. Oh yeah, look at that. That's way thicker. That's what I want. And then we'll pour it right back in there. And this will be our special sauce to go with our burger. It's been about 30-ish minutes. A little avocado oil to the pan. It's a nice and hot pan. We cut it on the parchment paper so it makes it easier for us to place it down there. Then we pull it off. And now we just let this sear because remember it's already cooked. So we're doing this mainly for the color now. Hopefully when I get back, we'll be flipping it over for you to see a nice, beautiful crust. I like to use an offset spatula to flip just because it gives me a little bit more control. So I'm going to peek first. Oh yeah, I think we're right where we want it to be. Look at that. Look at that. Look at those crispy edges. And you see how it's still all connected. Should get all that oil. I do one at a time just so I have space to flip it, but look at that. See that? That's because of the panko and the oat flour. It's gonna be good. And if you want, you could flatten it out a little bit. I got my toasted bun right here. Get our cilantro sauce first. That. A little bit more. That. Go ahead and get our burger, our black bean patty. Look how it stays together. Slide that right on. And then instead of lettuce, I actually use very thinly sliced cabbage. Before that, I'm going to add another layer of the cilantro sauce. Sauce. And we're going to do some thinly shredded cabbage. You could do lettuce. I just like the taste of cabbage. This is just raw cabbage. You could even like marinate it in like a nice little vinaigrette. But I wanted something fresh to kind of break up some of all this flavor. The little bit of mushrooms we saved, that crispy maple glazed mushrooms, gonna go right on top. Now, I made this in advance, so this is something that I love to add to tacos, salads. Oh, you know what I forgot? Oh no, I forgot my tomatoes. Get our tomatoes. So let's actually, please forgive me, those mushrooms out the way. Our tomatoes on there first. Then we add our mushrooms. We add our pickled onions. And then we clean this up. Then we add another layer of that cilantro sauce to the top bun. Nice and saucy. And put it on the top like this and push it down. And this is my spicy black bean burger. Add a little sweet potato, not fries, I guess cubes. And this is the black bean burger with all the accoutrements. I hope you guys try it. Let me know in the comments if you're going to try it. I'll make sure to put the recipe in the description as well. I'll see you in the next video. See ya.